きました。ゲットだぜ。
お前らの調子っ外れの歌など聞きたくない。撃たれたいのか？
ごめんなさい。謝りますから撃たないで。
If you've been on the internet long enough, you've probably come across a hoax so obviously fake, so stupid, it genuinely baffles you that anybody fell for it. Whether it's Luigi in Mario 64, or a haunted chain letter, or even the illusion of freedom in the United States. In all my years on the internet, one of the biggest hoaxes to ever gain traction was none other than Lavender Town Syndrome. A creepypasta that not only shits the bed when it comes to its execution, but just how close it came to being genuinely believable and interesting. The internet today probably would have just scoffed at the story and laughed at what is obviously the edgy ramblings of a high school freshman. But the internet of 2011 was a very different place. In those days, any creepypasta with the slightest semblance of believability was spread like VD at your local goth club. People swearing its authenticity was a very common thing to come across. Pokemon in general was just a very weirdly specific thing that came up in creepypasta all the time. But if I'm being fair, after reading Sonichu, I still have nightmares. So for anyone not into Pokemon, Lavender Town is an infamous location featured in the games as early as the series' first entry. The town itself is a sparsely populated little place where the locals all claim it's a haven for ghost sightings and the paranormal, mostly due to the town being the largest graveyard for dead Pokemon, aka Nurse Joy's dumping ground. In reality, it was Baby's first spooky location. Most games aimed at young audiences at the time didn't really have horror sections, or at least not ones with more subtle and haunting atmospheres, as a nearly abandoned town with creepy music. In that time, whenever games would include a more dark or horror-themed level, it would usually be in a more tongue-in-cheek or goofy fashion, as to not freak any kids out. A great example of this would be Super Mario 64, where the only thing scary about it was the piano jump scare. But other than that, that really was not common to see real genuine scares in children's games. So Lavender Town came as a very left field sort of experience for a lot of the children who were playing Pokemon, which is for the most part a really fun and upbeat kind of game. And in the pre-internet era of Pokemon, kids couldn't just go online and look things up.
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
So rumors would spread rapidly across schoolyards everywhere, with kids talking about the strange things that they saw in the game, or in most cases, the obviously made-up experiences they had. One of the most famous examples of schoolyard rumors was Missing No, the glitch cluster of graphics you could battle in the game, and one which had plenty of its own creepy rumors spread about it as well. While I don't recall any spooky rumors of Lavender Town being spread at my school, it wouldn't surprise me if those sorts of stories were spread around. And with a location as jarringly strange as Lavender Town in an otherwise cheery and upbeat game, it's almost guaranteed that some kids would. For those who don't know what Lavender Town Syndrome is, let me give you a brief summary of it. Lavender Town Syndrome was rumored to be a phenomenon in Japan during the mid-90s. The music from Lavender Town in Pokemon Red and Green supposedly contained frequencies so high-pitched that only children could hear them. Like that asshole you had in science class who thought that his little magic ringtone wouldn't be heard by the teacher. God, I don't miss flip phones. This apparently caused a lot of kids to fall ill and develop symptoms including headaches, nausea, nosebleeds, and in the case of upwards of 200 children, self-sunset. In the original version of the story, a detective who looked into the phenomenon concluded that the source of the issue was the Lavender Town music, and when looking into it, he discovered there was a secret code that caused this in the first 104 cartridges released of the game.
The detectives knew they were onto something. This unknown, obscure programmer, Chiro, had to have something to do with it. Something. They asked what Chiro's idea was, why he wanted so badly to have part in making this children's game. Nacino told them that Chiro never told him much about it, other than a few details every now and then. He wanted to insert a special Pokemon in the game, one completely different from all the others. It would serve as an extra, a kind of out-of-place thrill for the player. It wasn't, however, Missing No. It couldn't be. With the gameplay time recorded on the cartridges, it was impossible for the children to have time to meet that Pokemon. Nicino, throughout the entire conversation, seemed to break down even more with every question. The detectives pushed him more and more, searching through his mind for any and every scrap of knowledge this man had on the game, and Chiro, and Chiro's intentions. It was when they asked about the notes found in Chiro's home that he snapped. From under the couch Nicino was sitting on, he whipped out a pistol, pointing it straight at the police while backing away a few steps. Then, just as quickly, he brought the pistol to his face. "Don't follow me," muttered Nicino as he stuck the pistol in his mouth and pulled the trigger. It was too quick for the police to react. It was done. Nicino had killed himself, repeating slightly differently what was written on one of Chiro's papers. The worst part about this bit is that this is going to be the first impression of me to a lot of people, and they're going to think that I overact the shit out of my narrations. People, it's not that bad. This was a joke. Graymads asked me to start overacting at the end of the narration. I'm a lot better than that. I was just following orders, and that's the exact same excuse that I told my superior officers when that North African village disappeared.
The first incarnation of the story was posted to Pastebin in February of 2010 under the name Come Follow Me, and not long after it would be posted to 4chan's ever infamous X board. It was there where the story really took off, with Anons reacting to it in every which way, leading to more theories, people calling it for the obvious hoax it was, and some ironically fueling the flames just to see how far they could push it. Something important to keep in mind is that this all took place during the early days of SCP Foundation and the laughably bad copy-paste to stories such as Carmen Winstead. And thanks to the interest X took with Come Follow Me, it wasn't long before it spread across the likes of Reddit, Tumblr, and eventually creepypasta.com, and every halfwit with a headset decided to make a horrible narration of it. The early 2010s was a landfill for haunted video game creepypastas, so Lavender Town Syndrome was in really good company. I'm looking at you, Sonic.exe. And thanks to the other Pokemon-based creepypastas like Hypno's Lullaby, it was received with open arms and became one of the most popular stories of its time. I think the best thing about Lavender Town Syndrome is that, as dumb as it is, there are still people who fall for it today. Reddit posts from 2012 and 10 years later in 2022 on the Creepypasta Wiki, there are plenty of people falling hook, line, and sinker for it, though I like to believe many of them are just middle schoolers who don't know any better. When Lavender Town Syndrome first popped up, it was mixed in with many other video-centric hoaxes and creepypastas, and since this is a pre-Ben Drowned and NES Godzilla world, there wasn't much of a need for evidence to get a hoax going. One of the big reasons this silly little campfire tale was believed was mostly due to a lot of different videos on YouTube talking about other Pokemon-based horror phenomenons, but also there was a handful of videos where people were taking the original audio files and putting them into spectrographs. Now, to put that in English, they were looking at a visual representation of an audio file, and when they showed the waveforms, embedded in them was a picture of the Lavender Town ghost and some unknowns that spelled yes or no and fresh meat. The unknowns themselves weren't even a part of Pokemon at the time of this game's release. Though, where the hoax really blows its load is with the Drowning Man. What made this believable was the fact that finding images embedded into audio isn't really unheard of. A lot of artists over the years have done it, including the likes of Aphex Twin, who put his own face into one of his songs, as well as even the likes of Nine Inch Nails, who embedded their Year Zero album art into a cryptic audio track used during their ARG to promote their album at the time. But since most people really aren't in the know when it comes to audio production, something like this would be pretty off-putting and scary. To add on to all this, I think setting the story in Japan really helped it because Japan's internet is very separated from our own, and back then it was much harder to fact check things, especially since translators at the time did not really do Japanese or any Asian language all that well. Plus, most of us dumb Americans can't read kanji, so fact checking and verifying news stories just wasn't really a possibility. Though common sense should have been all you needed to know the story was a bunk from the beginning. But for those really looking to believe, that was all the proof they needed, and with the collective belief of middle schoolers and neurodivergent adults everywhere, it was the perfect storm to turn this laughable piece of internet fiction into a full-fledged hoax. All memes aside, I think the real reason people believed in Lavender Town syndrome is that if it was true, it wouldn't be the first time a piece of Pokemon media brought harm to children. Back in 1997, the 38th episode of the original anime series was released. The episode Deno Senshi Porygon was an episode about Ash and the gang going inside a machine to catch a digital Pokemon. It's during the episode's final battle where Pikachu uses a thunderbolt to stop some missiles launched at him, and the following explosion causes a few seconds of strobe lighting. And this is where something rather tragic actually happened. When this scene played out, according to Japan's Fire Defense Agency, a reported 685 viewers had to be taken to hospitals, with even more suffering effects from the scene at home with no medical aid at all. Many of them experienced seizures and various other forms of epilepsy. These symptoms included blurred visions, headaches, dizziness, and nausea, and in some of the more serious cases, blindness and convulsions, symptoms eerily familiar to what's referenced in the Lavender Town Syndrome hoax. This event caused the episode to be pulled from air in Japan, and when it came time to release it in America, the scene was altered to remove any visual effects that caused seizures. It's not hard to connect the dots and see that whoever came up with Lavender Town was obviously inspired by this event, and just having something like that out there for people to find adds a lot of credibility to an otherwise really stupid story. Lavender Town might be a dumb little hoax with an even dumber story behind it, but it's one of those early creepypastas that set up the building blocks for what we have now, with a ridiculous story only made slightly believable by the context set by other events in the real world. Regardless, it's a classic and deserves at least some of the fondness it's remembered with. Despite all my digs and jokes at the story's expense, it did help popularize the creepypasta genre and brought many fresh eyes to it. People who wouldn't normally indulge themselves in a story about the paranormal or horror in general now found themselves in the fold, and for that it deserves a lot of credit. As funny as it sounds, I think it really helps set the stage for groundbreaking gaming horror stories like NES Godzilla and Ben Drowned. So with that being said, don't worry, I'm not becoming just another creepy stuff on the internet channel. I've got a lot more music related content coming your way, but for now, subscribe, support me on Patreon, follow me on Twitter. I'll see you in the next video.
It's me, Madison Ray. Play up you pathetic little bay pitties.